Before we consider the proofs of Sedevacantism, let us begin by considering the matter in principle. We can do this in two respects. In the first respect, we can consider what the principles of Catholic thought are, and what principles Sedevacantists appeal to when developing their argument. Namely, principles of consistency and infallibility in reference to the Church's magisterium. In the second respect, we can consider whether Sedevacantism fails in principle. The charge to be addressed is that Sedevacantism cannot be true on principle because it is rejected by the Church, makes an appeal to private authority, and would render the Church invisible as well as defective. For this first part of our discussion on principle, let's consider the positive principles upon which the Sedevacantist case is built. This part of the argument develops like so. A. Catholics are unified in faith. B. Catholic doctrine is consistent. C. The Catholic Church teaches infallibly on faith and morals. D. This infallible teaching is reflected through the Church's magisterium. E. Therefore, the Church cannot contradict its own magisterial teaching. Any church that does so is not the Catholic Church. And so, let's unpack that. Firstly, Catholics are unified in faith. This is one of the four marks of the Church, a distinguishing feature of Catholicism. As Pope Pius IX wrote, "No other church is Catholic except the one which grows into one body in the unity of faith." As Father Sylvester Berry wrote in his treatise on the Church must have unity of doctrine taught and accepted, or unity of faith. And according to the Catholic Encyclopedia, for a man to be a member of the Church, he must profess the true faith. Individual Catholics may err and disagree about all sorts of issues, but the Church herself remains unified in its faith. When the Church has defined something as true, it is incumbent upon Catholics to bend to that truth. This is because the Church is nothing less than the teaching authority of God's truth, and for all people, that is one and the same truth. This is the first key principle that we must consider. The second principle is that Catholic doctrine is consistent. This is very important because, simply put, the truth is consistent. Even if we leave matters of religion and Catholicism aside, it is a strict axiom of logic that truth must be consistent and that contradictions cannot be true. Hence, claims like 2 + 2 = 5, or all circles are squares, or God is not God, are false, but not only false, they are strict nonsense. Catholicism is a rational faith, not by accident, but by necessity, because only a faith that is rational and consistent can, in fact, be true. The next key principle is that Catholic doctrine is infallible. Now, it is not the case that everything said by a member of the clergy or even the Pope is to be taken as infallible, and if a teaching is not infallible, contradicting it does not present a problem. However, the Church does teach infallibly through her magisterium, which is the Church's divinely appointed authority to teach the truths of religion. The magisterium comes in two kinds, ordinary and extraordinary. The extraordinary or solemn magisterium is comprised of formal, official pronouncements. Whenever a pope speaks ex cathedra, or a council defines a given doctrine to be believed by all of the faithful, we see the formation of the solemn magisterium in action. The ordinary magisterium is the other form of church teaching, continually exercised by the Church, especially in her universal practices connected with faith and morals, in the unanimous consent of the fathers and theologians, in the decisions of the Roman congregations concerning faith and morals, in the common sense of the faithful, and various historical documents in which the faith is declared. That is to say, a particular bishop, or theologian, or papal encyclical may not be infallible, but when the Church has consistently exercised the same faith, and when popes and bishops and saints and theologians have consistently taught the same doctrines about faith and morals, those doctrines are to be regarded as infallible, even if they have not been officially defined. We are told as much by the First Vatican Council when it states that all those things are to be believed by divine and Catholic faith which are contained in the written word of God or in tradition, and which are proposed by the Church either in solemn judgment or its ordinary and universal teaching office as divinely revealed truths which must be believed. Hence, we find the magisterium codified in many different documents, such as papal bulls and encyclicals, in catechisms, and in the documents of ecumenical councils, because, quote, that an ecumenical council is an organ of infallibility cannot be denied. We also find the magisterium expressed through canon law, because, quote, the ultimate source of canon law is God. Hence, in the magisterium of the Church, we see a body of doctrines which are infallible as a direct result of the Church's teaching and governmental authority, in its supernatural mission, given by God and protected by the Spirit of truth, to teach all of mankind the true faith. Therefore, the Church cannot contradict these teachings, any of them. To do so would be to forego its mission, to deny its own infallibility, to fly in the face of reason, and to trivialize the promise made by God. Therefore, either the Church remains true to its magisterium, or it is not the Church. Therefore, this is what the Sedevacantist position is built upon. Appealing to the magisterium is not an appeal to something other than official ecclesiastical authority, because the magisterium is a direct expression of it. And if the Novus Ordo Church purports to be Catholic, its magisterium is formed in the same way and is just as binding. The Novus Ordo must be consistent with the Catholic magisterium. If it is not, it cannot be the Catholic Church.